The moment she leaned close and whispered, "Be my husband," the world inside him didn't just pause, it cracked. The weight of betrayal, sleepless nights, and a child's silent tears surged through his chest all at once, and for a second, he forgot how to breathe. This wasn't a proposal, it felt like a test, a storm, or maybe even a second chance disguised as something dangerous. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet strength of broken people learning to love again, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Stories. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them most. Arman had once believed in forever. He had believed in building a life brick by brick, in trusting someone enough to let them see his weaknesses, and in the idea that love was something you protected, not something you survived. But all of that had shattered the day his wife walked away, not just from him, but from their 5-year-old son, Zion. The divorce papers had been cold, clinical, almost cruel in how easily they summarized years of love into a few legal paragraphs. She didn't fight for custody. She didn't look back. And Arman was left standing in the ruins, holding a child who kept asking why his mother didn't hug him goodbye. Life after that wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was quiet in the most painful way. It was waking up at 5 a.m. to prepare breakfast, getting Zion ready for school, rushing to work, and pretending everything was fine. It was coming home exhausted, only to find more responsibilities waiting. It was lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering how something so real could disappear so completely. He worked as a mid-level manager in a massive corporation, one owned by a woman who was as intimidating as she was admired. Elena Veres had built her empire from a report submitted under pressure, a calculation slightly off, and suddenly Arman found himself summoned to the executive floor. The elevator ride felt longer than usual, each second echoing his anxiety. Losing this job wasn't an option. Not when Zion depended on him for everything. When he stepped into her office, he expected anger, disappointment, maybe even humiliation. Instead, he found silence. Elena sat behind her desk, her eyes scanning him in a way that felt less like judgment and more like curiosity. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't lecture him. She simply asked him to explain. And he did. Not perfectly. Not confidently. But honestly. Something in that moment shifted. She didn't fire him. She didn't even reprimand him harshly. Instead, she reassigned him to a project that required long hours but offered better pay. It didn't feel like punishment, it felt like opportunity. And Arman, desperate and determined, took it. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Arman worked harder than he ever had, not just to prove himself, but to build a stable life for his son. Slowly, his presence became noticeable. His ideas were practical. His leadership was quiet but effective. And Elena noticed. She began calling him into meetings, asking for his input, testing his judgment. At first, it felt surreal. Then it became routine. But what never became ordinary was the way she looked at him, not as a boss looks at an employee, but as someone trying to understand a puzzle. One evening, after a particularly long day, Arman stayed late.